Go, Katie.
I am on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:33. Could I please get a roll call?
Yep, Kate Knutson,
Here?
Doug Thompson,
Here.
Richard Anthony's going to be late.
No, he's going to be absent.
Possibly absent, yeah.
Okay, very good. Ted Carbs,
Here.
Margot Collins.
Present.
David Garns.
Here.
Liz Costa.
Here.
Sherman is excused. Jada Roche.
Here.
And Greg Colby.
All right, thank you. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You do have in front of you the October 24th meeting minutes. If everybody would take a minute to look over those. And then when you are satisfied, I would need a motion to accept the meeting minutes. Chance if I can get a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
I'll make a
Can I ask a
motion.
question first?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm new, I'm learning.
Yep, go ahead.
So there's a couple of places where it said you would ascertain information and get back to us. Do we discuss that now or do we discuss that later?
So we will discuss it later in the agenda part that's old business.
Okay? The other thing, and I'm not sure how this works, so I need to be educated.
Nope, absolutely.
On first page, bottom, it says there was no comments from the public. If people are here, do they have the right to raise their hand and ask questions, or?
So the only time that anyone from the public can speak is during the agenda time for public comment. But other than that, that's it. This is a meeting held in public. It's not a meeting for public participation.
Okay, I'm
Nope, you're-
learning.
Nope, you're fine, absolutely. Did you have any other questions?
No, I circled a few things that we said we'd get back to. I just didn't know at what point we got back to them because I'm learning.
Yep, absolutely.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained, 7-0-0. Okay. Next is public comment. Did you want to come up and speak, sir? Yes. Okay. If you would, please state your name and your address. Cool.
Nolan Pelletier, 24 North Ave. I'd like to thank the board for having me here tonight and hearing me. Although we may not agree on everything, you do come here every time, like every night, and you're showing up for work. Really nice to see Ted here. So, hi, Ted. I come to you as a concerned citizen. I understand that you did not put us in this predicament yourselves. I say I'm a concerned citizen. I feel like there's other citizens, but if I'm any indication of what's going on, you might be actually okay. I personally had other questions, and I see that's going to be going later. You guys are going to be talking to some of those people later in old business, so I don't want to really go over there, but I just want to state that times are getting tough, and you guys are going to have to really look at these things and not rubber stamp everything because we're all struggling. And just passing these through without asking these questions. I mean, I can't even tell you how many questions I had when it came to the police tower, and they said that it was falling down, and they said they need a lift. It's like, well, if we're bringing in a lift, why aren't we repairing it? The better question is, why is it in disrepair? This safety complex is relatively new. Speaking in terms of buildings, is a new building, and I think someone brought it up here. I don't remember who last meeting, and it was kind of just shrugged off of like, oh, that was last administration or whatever. We have intercom issues, phone issues. I mean, if we're being honest, if what you're saying is true, that these systems don't talk to each other, that means that like every time they're dealing with a phone issue, they're using twice the man hours. That's not efficient. That's not an efficient use of time. And then to keep that in place for years and years is weird. And to have it come to a head is one thing. So I hope tonight you ask some serious questions and trim the fat where it is. And me droning on is not going to do anything else. So thank you for hearing me, and I'll be watching the rest on TV. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming
Have a
out.
nice
Yep,
evening,
thank you
sir.
very much. No one else? All right, down to business. The first one is Highway Department. For 2023, it was approved for $989,108. The 2024 request is $1,040,364. This is an increase of $51,256, which is a 5.18% increase. The major contributing factors, if you look at the first line item for salaries, that's an increase of $30,000. And then there's other various things towards the end, but that's the most significant. The other significant increase is on the second page of the budget. It's the snow plowing. It went up for $15,000, but in the, it's due to an increase in rate to accommodate the operating cost. Yes, Mr. Kearns.
I have a question concerning overtime.
Okay.
Both in '22 and in '23, they've overspent their budget. They budgeted about 40K each year, and they overspent it. Now, I may be wrong, but we didn't have that much of a storm season, so I'm just curious what the OT went for.
Mr. Colby.
I would disagree that we did not. We did have a storm season, evidenced by the fact that the snow plow, the expenses related to snow plowing itself are $20,000 overspent for this year. And the overtime is overspent as well because we have had a vacancy in that department all year. We are one person down. So in order to get things done, we are paying overtime to our current three-man crew.
Are you still looking for someone?
Yes. Looking for two people, actually.
2 full-time people?
Yes.
And what incentives do we have to bring in laborers, trade people? How are we trying to ascertain these people?
I mean, they're CBA positions, so we're kind of limited. We had the renegotiation of the contract in order to increase the wages to be able to offer, and we haven't been able to find anybody.
Is it possible to go through a short-term temp service to get somebody in, and if they want to stay, if they like it, they stay, or is that not cost-effective?
I'm not sure. I would have to look into that.
Food for thought, that's all.
Absolutely.
Liz, do you have a question?
I do. The salary increases just from the CBA, the contract?
Yes.
Okay. I have another question.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The highway general supplies for the traffic, it hasn't really been touched this year. What are some of those supplies that you might need? I'm kind of new to this.
Which line item are you talking about?
Bottom of page 1.
610, the third from the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, there's no description.
Cones and barricades, the highway supervisor, he and I just spoke this morning, about spending, some of that money getting to the end of the year. Some of those things he does wait on because, especially this year, because of the snow budget being overspent as much as it was. He's very cognizant of, that fact and, wanted to wait until we were further into the year.
Okay.
Those numbers are through September. Through October, we spent almost $34,000 in that traffic line.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And are we on track to expend that full amount that's budgeted? Or
Yes.
close to it? And is that stuff we're going to need for next year as well?
It's perpetually being replaced due to wear, tear, and also the disappearance of cones and things of that nature. They do tend to walk away, even though they don't have legs.
Do we label them? Like, Plasto Highway?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And yes, they do tend to walk.
They're not cheap.
And the walk gets crushed.
Well, and all this, you know, everyone thinks it's great to have a stop sign in their garage, but when you realize what a you go to Newmarket to where they sell this stuff, you find out what a stop sign costs or a yield sign costs, they're not cheap. And it's not funny I personally, if I go by somebody's house and see, you know, one way do not enter, I get angry because I know I own part of that sign. I tend to be very frugal.
Does someone want to make a motion to approve the highway budget?
Well, what's this, highway grounds maintenance? Just exactly what does that mean? It's, number 391 on the back page. Is it what they do to mow and maintain the grounds? It just says HW ground maintenance,
Yeah, no description.
no description. Can anyone answer that?
It's the grounds fertilization and maintenance, including sprinklers, outside contractor for landscaping. A couple of years ago, with the shortage of help, we started to outsource the mowing and the maintenance of all the town properties. So that's included there, as well as extra over at Park, extra mowings, things of that nature.
Well, I think we're in for one hell of a snowy winter myself. And I think, I don't see a lot of cold, but I see a lot of salt and snow, and I see a lot of contractors. And I personally, having many years ago plowed for this town as a contractor, I continue to applaud Dan for really ironing the dollar and doing a good job. So I don't know what else to say, except I think he's done a great job, and fire trucks and police cars can't get to where they need to go without Dan's crew that works all night.
Any other questions on the highway budget?
I'll make a motion to accept the budget,
I'll second
the
it.
highway department.
Motion made by Doug, seconded by Margot. Any other additional comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed and abstain, 700. All right, next is street lighting, and it's gone down. 2023 is approved 112,500. 2024 request is 95,000, which is a decrease of 17,500, which is a negative 15.56% decrease. And this is going towards our LED projects, correct? The replacement of all the lights with the LEDs. So, awesome.
With the installation of LEDs, will it continue to decrease?
Yes.
And do we have a plan here, like over how long?
I believe so. Or is it already all completed?
The
Go ahead.
the project is completed. All the lights have been converted. I think there is a 5-year plan where eventually the cost that was incurred to get all of the LED lights will be paid off. So this number won't go down significantly, but we'll continue to see a decline over the next few years.
With the PUC and the tariff charges on the equipment, the equipment that we replaced, we have to pay for. And as Mr. DeRoche said, that was like over a 5-year period. So in another couple of years, this will go down again.
What's a start?
Any questions on this budget? Anyone want to make a motion to accept the street lighting?
I make a motion, we accept the street lighting budget at $95,000.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Doug. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained, 700. All right, solid waste collection. 2023 approved was $1,009,478. 2024 request is $1,014,958. This is an increase of $5,480, which is 0.54%, but this is, we're under a contract, correct?
Yes.
So this is, how many more years do we have on this contract? 2 more?
3. I think it's 3.
Yeah, I think this is,
Second year.
Second year.
going into January, we'll be starting year 3.
Okay.
It was a 5-year contract?
It's a 5-year contract.
So we're going into 3.
So probably around year 4, we'll start
Shopping.
Shopping around.
shopping around.
So yeah, this budget is pretty much fixed due to the fact that it is under
A
contract.
legal contract.
Um,
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the budget for $1,014,958.
a motion to have a second?
A second.
Second by David Burns for the solid waste collection.
Yes.
Any other? go ahead.
I will say with this, and I sound like someone I respect a lot, but residents can help reduce
Yeah.
the cost here. Like if you recycle, we get charged 2 different rates. We get charged for a solid waste rate and a recycling rate. The recycling rate is, I believe it went up, but I think it's like $28 or $30.
$20, it's a flat $20 per ton.
It's flat $20 per ton. We get charged $82 a ton for trash.
What is it?
82 for trash.
82 or 84 for trash. I think we're on a schedule, but that increases over the life of the contract. But I believe it's around $84 per ton. And then your recycling is $20 per ton. So the more you recycle and the less you put in the solid waste, you can help reduce that cost.
What's the cost for contaminated loads on the recycling?
We have to look at our monthly reports that we should be getting from Republic. So
But if it's contaminated, it's just
if it's
considered
contaminated,
80.
if it's contaminated, it's still charged at the $20 per ton.
Okay.
And then if it's contaminated, it ends up in the trash.
And they charge you, what, the $80 if it's contaminated?
If it's contaminated, you're still charged,
For 2024, it's up to $91 a ton.
it's 91, okay.
91 for regular trash for
Yes.
2024.
So there's no financial penalty if they determine a load is contaminated?
Correct. It's still, you're charged at 20 per ton.
I think they push it into as trash.
They
though,
push
and
it in
they
as
charge
trash.
The higher rate. So, I mean, there is a penalty, if you will, for contaminated recycling. It goes, instead of $20 a ton, we're paying $91 a ton in 2020.
So
My
maybe,
understanding was it wasn't, but okay. I'm incorrect.
so what would be considered contaminated recycling?
Anything that's not cardboard.
Someone puts a glass jar of spaghetti sauce in their recycling bin.
Isn't it pizza boxes too? That's like a big
box, yeah.
pizza box.
Pizza
or
And they
like
throw it
no-
in and it
Yeah.
smashes and it has spaghetti sauce all over it and it gets all over the cardboard and it gets all over the paper and all the other material that will contaminate it.
Or like even though like a pizza box is cardboard, but because it's got the food particles and stuff, like if you put that in with the recycling, that'll be considered contaminated.
Or any non-recyclable item,
Right, yeah.
So
styrofoam.
not that it's really our place as budget committee, but how do we, as people who try to keep expenses down, how do we educate the general public on doing things better?
Good question.
Well, I know there's been a big social media presence. I know that the town and a lot of the pages will put out stuff like, hey, remember this is good, okay to recycle, this isn't. It's just getting people.
Yeah, and there was a training program on the cable.
Yes.
And the town does have some good documentation right on the waste site there of what's recyclable, what's not. They do a good job with that.
So besides this, and I know you people are tired of hearing one of my favorite words. How do we have a solid waste / recycling committee of volunteers, and how do we make them more transparent to get the knowledge out to the general public?
I don't think we-
Currently, the track committee isn't in place. We do have a TRAC committee, which is a trash and recycling committee. They did a lot of work when we switched over to the new trash contract with the new barrels. They helped develop a flyer that went out with the barrels on, ways to help better recycle, ways to help better reduce your trash footprint, stuff like that. So right now that committee isn't in place, but it could be reinvigorated.
Or could it, I'm one to squeeze a dime, or could it possibly be a Boy Scout community service project if we sat them down and educated them and sent them out to educate the public?
I think
Sure, that's
my
a
understanding,
possibility.
my understanding about contamination, the number one contamination that we have with respect to commingling of recyclables, non-recyclables is going to be plastic bags that end up being in the recycle stream. So when we met with, the recycling, what was the name of the?
At the time, it was JRM.
Yeah, JRM basically indicated that. I mean, if you have plastic bags, whatever, that are in the recycle stream, then that ends up gumming up the
Machines.
beds that they use to sort the material, and they have to dump it, pull everything out, and things like that. So, if we were going to look to educate people, and we were doing that for a while,
Yeah.
I think on online, where don't put the following things in, but if you're going to pay attention to anything, don't put plastic bags in your recycle containers. I mean,
All right, there's been a motion and a second to accept the solid waste collections budget. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed and abstain.
I abstain.
701. Next is the solid waste disposal / landfill. 2023 approved was 37,500. 2024 request was 38,500. And this is an increase of $1,000, which is a 2.67% increase. Yeah. It's really the overtime.
So the majority of this contract, of this budget is for us to monitor and maintain the
Cap.
the
right?
cap.
Yep.
So this is something we're required to by law. Sometimes that cost goes up, sometimes it goes down, but I think right now it's on the lower end.
Take the overtime out, it's pretty much a wash between engineering and groundkeeping, because engineering went up by 2,500, but then groundkeeping went down by 2,500, so.
Right.
All right. In terms of groundkeeping, are we, what does that entail?
It's the
Assuming,
cap maintenance.
Well,
Mowing and other things as needed.
now, is that separate from what was being done with the highway department? Or from what I understand, we outsource the mowings of various common areas.
But not that we take care of the mowing and the maintenance. Specialized nature over there with the DES mandates. Our highway supervisors, up on the requirements of what can be and can't be, touched and the likes. It's a little bit more specialized than just mowing the grass outside.
Any other questions? You want to make a motion to accept the solid waste disposal budget? Do you have a question?
No.
You were,
Make a motion.
Ted made the motion to accept the budget. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second it.
I'll go beat
There
you.
you go, that's fine.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. 8-0. All right, next is health, the health budget. For 2023, it was approved for $90,450. 2024 request is $99,178. This is an increase of $8,728, which is a 9.65% difference. The only really big line item that increased anything significant, well, really two, was the permanent position. It went up by almost $2,000.
Mosquito control.
And the part-time position went up by 3,400.
Also increased mosquito control by 2,000 as
Yep.
well. 'Cause increases there.
I guess when I was looking at that, I thought that was the end of the budget. My bad.
How much does, it says there's 60 licenses, food establishments, as well as 5 licensed childcare facilities. How much does this department bring in revenue? Any idea?
It's on the sheet that was handed out, so there's the health department here. I think it's the fifth line down. Inspection fees.
Okay, wait a minute, I got too many pieces of paper.
So current,
74,000.
11.
Just shy of $12,000.
Their revenue, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions on the health department's budget?
Make a motion, we accept the health department budget at $99,178.
Mr. Burns, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Doug. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. 8-0. 9-0. No, 8-0, because we guess we've got one member left. Human Services. 2023 approved was $46,884. 2024 request is $46,887. That's a whopping increase of $3 with a 0.01% difference.
What's the portion of their 2024 budget that's not?
Year to date, it's 40,600.
Yeah,
The budget was 46,000.
so they're within $6,000 of spending it.
3 months to go.
Yeah.
Looks like OH even, line 2,
Yes.
and line 3, child advocacy.
Yeah, they've not spent. Yeah, that's-
Those haven't been spent yet.
Right.
And Lamprey Health is the bottom one, has been set at 0 for the last couple of years, so.
Most of those have been spent through October. The only one that remains is a Child Advocacy Center for $1,250. We usually pay it once they put in the formal request for it.
Anybody have any other questions for the Human Services budget? To get a motion to approve the Human Services budget for $46,887.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Liz. Do you have a second? Second by Doug. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain. Welfare Administration and Assistance. 2023 approved was $39,666. The 2024 request is $38,910. This is a decrease of $756, which is a negative 1.91% difference.
Greg, are there any updated expenditures on this budget since for October?
I can, yeah. I also know that we have had several people coming in looking for rent in the last week or so. So we're going to probably end up overspending the welfare budget. But through October, we're at $22,293 spent. Like I said, I know there was $5,000 approved this week on 3 different rents.
Any other questions on the welfare budget?
So if somebody comes in and has assistance for something, is there a payback system? Or do they have to prove they're truly in need, and is there some type of a payback system?
If they meet the requirements, yes. I know we do have some welfare liens that are outstanding that are there if they own property in town. But the welfare office does everything, by the book and does a very thorough job. We are the last resort, really. There is an extensive network of, other area nonprofits that they will get pointed to first, depending on somebody's need. And we are usually the last resort if none of those can come through. That is why our welfare budget is as low as it is, quite honestly. They do an amazing job.
Any other questions on the welfare budget? Someone want to make a motion to accept the Welfare Administration Assistance budget? Motion made by Ted. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Gerns. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, recreation. 2023 approved for recreation was $194,111. 2024 request is $216,190. This is an increase of $22,079, which is 11.37% increase. The big driving factor is when Ms. Gussler was in here is talking about their part-time. It's increased to $21,000. It was originally $57,000, now it's $78,000, and this is really towards the rec department in the summer program, increasing the wages so that they can be more attracting for the camp counselors that they need to be able to monitor the children.
Can somebody explain to me, number 410, concession stand and parking light lots, pump house heater and well pumps for 5 homes situated around Pack Center due to water issues?
So is your question about the 5 homes?
Yeah, I mean, all those homes were there prior to the land swap that built that playground. Why do we have well pumps for 5 homes? And what is the water issue, or doesn't anybody know?
I only know there was issues with the groundwater, and those 5 homes are hooked into the water system. I'm not sure of the history as to why.
We'll have to look into it, but I believe it's related to the BD site because it's right off of that. So those 5 houses are getting, they're off of the pump house there.
If it's-
Because at some point in time, I can get you the information, but I do recall at some point in time, the town was providing water to 5 houses over there. And the park was built, when the pump house went in, they were connected to those 5 houses because we need to provide clean water for them.
Is it not up to the state to provide clean drinking water? How
Think
did it filter down to the town?
I think I would have to go back and research it, to be honest with you, but
I'm just asking.
it's related to the town was providing water at a certain point in time, and they were connected to the well.
Okay.
Is that cost reimbursed by the Beatty Group?
Again, I would have to go back and look, but
Let us look, because I got a text message from the highway supervisors that says there's contaminated wells due to road salt. So it may
So it
not
could
be
be-
related to BD, it could be something else.
Right.
So we can find an answer on that.
Awesome, thank you.
Aren't most of us on artesian versus hand dug wells here in town?
Who was a hand dug well?
Well, I actually have one inside my house because I have a 300-year-old house, but we only use it to water the garden. But I'm just saying, I really don't know of anybody who their daily water comes to their home from a shallow hand dug versus an artesian. Road salt contamination, I mean, I got a 365-foot deep well. I'd have to have a hell of a lot of salt in my yard to have contamination. Is this an ongoing problem that we need to be aware of for the future?
Well, he also adds that salt shed runoff could have contributed to it as well.
Oh, just because of like the massive volume.
Yes,
at the old highway garage.
yes.
All right, so this is.
Is that
this
near
is-
Old County? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, off of Old County.
So yeah, so I've circled this and we'll definitely get the information to
Well,
bring back instead of speculating.
The only reason
get
I'm asking the
action.
question is if it's showing up now on paper and we don't have the proper answers, and it shows up every year, if there's something we can do to fix it, change it, or make it go away, I'm all for it. And so, I mean, I'm new, so if I'm asking too many questions, just tell me.
You're fine. It was a good question. We did, instead of us, we don't know, so we're gonna go get the information so we can get the true information out there. Other than that line item, is there any other questions about this budget? Someone want to make a motion to accept the recreation budget for $216,190?
Make a motion to accept the recreation budget for $216,190.
Got a motion? Seconded by Ted. Any other discussion?
Do you want to accept it before you get the information on the question at hand? I mean, otherwise you're going to, new information comes in and you're going to have to back up and vote on it or not vote on it.
Doesn't matter to me either way.
Honestly, I mean.
Just
I-
wonder what the procedure's going to be.
You can
If there's a
revisit
question-
it.
We can revisit it. But here's the thing, our last budget meeting, we also passed all those budgets, and we had several that we needed to go back, that we
Yeah,
had
and
a
I think I
couple
voted
questions.
no on them using that logic, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
but the
so
majority passed
but
it.
but for everyone else,
Okay,
I mean,
well,
if there's a question,
a motion's been made and there's been a second,
and
so if
and we're
everyone's.
discussing right now,
Yeah, so
right?
what I'm saying is that if everyone, the majority wants to not pass it, then vote no. But if you want to pass it, vote yes, and we can revisit this.
So what we're saying then, procedure-wise, that if we want to go back and revisit something,
Yep,
all right, based on new information or new discussion on
Absolutely
things, then
can.
we can do that, and there shouldn't be any sense that people are apprehensive about doing that.
oh,
Fine with me.
And do we know how much revenue the summer rec program actually bring? Like, do we know the number of children that attend for the summer and how much revenue it does in fact bring in?
as far as the summer program itself, I do not know, but currently, the recreation department has brought in $95,170.
90,
That is 90, probably 99% of that is summer rec program,
Is the summer rec.
if not all. About 50% of the budget.
Yeah. And doesn't all of that go back into the general fund? Okay. Any other questions on recreation? We'll get clarification on that one line item, but a motion's been made and there's been a second. All those in favor of passing the recreation department budget, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstained. So 7-1-0.
We still haven't, as a Board of Selectmen, we still haven't voted on
Patriotic.
patriotic cultural. I believe Old Home Day Committee will be coming to our next meeting, so you'll have it after that meeting.
All right, so then we will take the patriotic and cultural one out because we're just letting them have a chance to have the old one. Okay. So, next thing on the list is the conservation budget. The 2023 approved is $7,225. The 2024 requested is $8,425. The difference is $1,200, which is a 16.61%. Which I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really just the CC water testing has increased by $1,100. Any questions on the conservation? Yes.
I have one question. I know that there's a public hearing coming up for the Conservation Committee and wetlands. Where did that come out of the budget? Or was that taken out of just a general fund? Because I heard from the post office, there were like 400 letters that were sent.
There were approximately 450 certified mail pieces that were sent. And the cost of that is coming out of the Conservation Commission fund itself, which is a separate money that has been accumulated over the years.
Okay.
So it's coming out of there.
All right. I guess I'll see you all on Thursday too.
I got one, so I'll be here.
I got one too.
Be a party. Anybody have any other questions for the conservation budget?
Are they, do you know if they're, well, two things.
Yep.
Do you know if they're doing anything with selective cutting that brings in revenue? Or if they're doing anything with any of the local scouting groups to keep the trails up, to repair the bridges, to make signs? Is there any One, fostering growth, there's a community volunteer situation to do any of this stuff. I mean, not that it's a big budget, but you motivate the youth, you motivate a lot of people.
I know the Boy Scouts, it might be once, even twice a year, they're out there maintaining the trails, like after the winter and then in the fall sometimes.
Okay,
So they're out there. I've been out there with them a couple times, and we, some of the leaders will bring out saws and cut down branches and stuff that are hanging over or need to be moved out of the path.
I know we used to years ago, but I've been out of it for a while, so that's why I was asking.
They still do that.
So I
So
know the Boy Scouts are always active in participating in cleanups and what have you in town. It's a continuous project for them.
What's the water testing that the Conservation Committee's doing?
It's a level fund based on $4,260 for annual stream sampling and $1,740 for MS4 testing. Adding potassium phosphorus tests to each of the 21 sample sites done for the annual stream sampling. 2024 increase to cover increase in water testing.
So this is all around our requirements for the MS4 stormwater management. So there are certain areas in town where they have to go out and provide testing.
Right.
Where, water runs off the street into wetlands or other areas like that. So there's different areas within town that the Conservation Commission will go out and take samples to send to the state.
Any other questions for the conservation budget? Could I get a motion to approve the conservation budget for $8,425?
I'll,
Margot's made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Anthony. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. 8-0. Okay. Next is debt services. 2023 approved was $568,198. 2024 request is $556,829. This is a decrease of $11,369, which is a negative 2%.
Just a quick question, Greg. What is it on the debt service that we've retired to account for a decrease? And it's always good to,
What, have we retired?
yeah, in the way of debt, that we're decreasing the service on it.
Oh, one, you mean from the original?
Yeah.
Give me a couple minutes.
Okay. I mean,
I don't,
any big ticket items or?
maybe I'm not following you.
Well, if it's costing less to service the debt. I mean,
Right.
What's the narrative around that?
Well, I mean, we had a predetermined debt schedule, so as we're paying it off.
Well, it's going towards principal and less towards interest. Like your mortgage. Would be my speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of like bonds. I mean, the original bond that we took out was $8.5 million. So, we have a set schedule, every year. Right now, we're down to 6.44 million.
That's good. Hang up, that's great.
I got one question in regards to the interest income, not related to debt really. How come interest income is up significantly over last year? What drives interest income?
Well, we do have access to the New Hampshire Public Deposit Investment Pool, which
Okay.
with the interest rate increases, they're paying around 5.4%.
Yeah, it's up almost 150,000 over last year, so that's a significant contribution to the taxpayer.
Yes.
Okay.
And I monitor that and leave it as long as I can at
It's a good return. It's a good return. 187,000 is a good number.
I mean, from that note aside, when we had issued the $450,000 debt on the water side of things, and when we issued it with the interest rate being as low as it is, And with the money invested in the pool, it's just about a wash at this point, so.
So interest rate's a good thing. A high interest rate's a good thing.
In some
Is that what you're saying?
respects, a couple,
one.
not many.
When it comes to investments,
Anybody have any other questions for the debt service budget?
Just because you brought up water, I mean, we're going to talk about water at some point later.
Yes, selectmen have not
Okay.
done water yet.
All right, so, but then I guess maybe a preview, just, I know that we bought a block of water, okay, in terms of, that would then sell it off, to various people that are using it. But over the course of the year, there was an issue with sort of a biologic acid level or whatever that was in the water.
Yes.
And we had to purge the system at X number of gallons, 100,000 gallons
We
at a
did
time.
flushing.
Yeah. Are we being reimbursed for that water that we've had to flush the system for?
Yes,
All right. Cool.
working on it currently.
All right.
We have through November 30th to get our request in because one of the grants runs out on November 30th.
And do we know how much water did we flush? Just,
I don't know off the top of my head.
okay. All right.
All right, if there's no more questions for debt service, does someone want to make a motion to accept the budget for $556,829?
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Gerns, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Collins. Any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. 8-0. Right. Budget for tonight is the library budget. 2023 was approved for $637,574. Requested for 2024 is $664,858. This is an increase of $27,284, which is 4.28%. Some big driving factors are the salaries. They're up by almost $13,000. And then the next line item also too, which is the health, life, and disability, which is up by $19,445.
Does the library have its own janitor, and that's all he does, is that one building?
Good question. Does the library, that janitor, that's not just for the library, correct? Or is it?
Just for the library.
Okay. I guess just point of clarification on the janitor. So that janitor, they'd never go to any other building in the town and do anything, they only report there to the library?
The majority of the time, he is available in case we do need him for other buildings, but his primary assignment is the library.
Okay, all right.
It's 7.5 hours a week is allotted to the library, and that's a comfortable salary.
It's also a CBA? That person's part of the CBA, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it says right there it is.
they just know.
And the library is open a good amount of time, 5 days a week. So they're open till what, 7 p.m. at night? They have a lot of traffic that comes in and out of there.
Yeah, they do.
And I love
Probably
the library. I just
there
wish they were
is-
more transparent with how many patrons come and who uses what and what services are really being utilized. We got a great staff. We got wonderful people. They'll go out of their way to help you. But when, on the outside, when people ask me questions, wish I had more factual, hands-on. Well, you know, we had 15,000 people go to the library last month and children's hours and this, that, and the other thing. But because so many of these departments aren't transparent, you find yourself saying, let me make a phone call and I'll get back to you.
So you're looking for reporting on that? Just to
I just wish more departments would be just so much more transparent in general so that people who don't do their homework but want quick answers, they're there.
Yeah, so I think to Margot's point, I mean, yes, the library is very, like, they're on social media, like, hey, we're doing this, hey, we're doing that. But I think, like, at the end of the month, be like, hey, we had
You want statistics.
X number of
Right.
events, and this was the number of participation, and, right, that's what you're kind of, that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've only been here a month and now I find in the grocery store, somebody walk up to me and started asking me a whole bunch of questions and I was blown over and it's like,
I don't
I don't
know.
have that answer, but I'll get back to you. And I did get back to them. Yeah, I was just kind of surprised. That's all. I'm learning.
Any other questions on the library budget? Seeing that there is none, anyone want to make a motion to approve the budget for $670,525? Motion made by Ted. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Kearns. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. 800. All right. That is all of the budgets except for the water and then the patriotic/cultural. Those are the two. And then in new and old business, we did have a couple questions from the last meeting. One of the ones that's not on this list, but I have it, was executive. One of the questions was on the line item for rental and leases. It's 10-580. There was a question of how long the copier lease was, and Mr. Colby, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, Margot, you asked this question. It's an ongoing process. So instead of them buying a brand-new copier, they lease it for 4 years, which I think the lease is 3 years, correct? At the end of that 3 years, they take that machine, give it back, they get a new one, and they get to do another 3-year lease.
Okay.
So that was the only question that I had for the executive one. Human resources, the question was around the sick leave buyback. And I think mainly just how it works and when it happens. Our HR director got back to me. She actually sent us the form, which will go into the records for the minutes. It's personnel plan, section E. So this line item has nothing to do with anyone who's retiring. So no, anyone who's retiring, it's not part of this line item. And Mr. Colby, if I say anything wrong, please correct me. But the form she states is there will be a minimum of 20 sick days in the sick pool for all employees in this plan after a period of 4 years. To obtain this minimum, an employee must take only the minimum allowed sick days for a period of 4 consecutive years. After the 4 years, an employee may buy back the amount of unused sick days, leaving the minimum amount of 20 days in the pool. An employee may accumulate up to, but no more than a maximum of 90 days in the pool. Upon the employee leaving her his or her employment with the town of Plastow, he or she will be paid for the remaining half of her accumulated amount of sick days over the minimum amount of 20. And if an employee wishes to buy back more than 12 sick days, he or she must notify the town manager in writing 2 months in advance. The town manager has the right to refuse an amount over 12 days. So that was kind of how that works. So it's not retirement, but this is the form that they use. And then if there's any additional questions. Does that satisfy?
But what does it mean to buy back a sick day?
Well, in order to incentivize, I guess, the employees, they need to meet certain requirements, and then any unused, they can request to be paid for it.
Okay.
And it's usually paid around December 1st of every year. So that's why it's usually, whenever we go through the budget process, it's usually, hasn't been spent yet because it's not till in December.
Is it paid out at 100% or is it prorated?
It's paid out of 100% of what's left, what they may have. I don't recall.
So no, I mean
specifics.
a dollar figure per day. So they have 2 days, they're selling back, they're paid out at 50%, 75%,
No,
100%.
100%, at the standard hourly rate.
Everybody satisfied with the question for human resources? Okay. The other question for general government buildings information, I believe it wasn't necessarily the dollar amount, it was just what else. And it was the line item 00-660, which is vehicle maintenance for $3,000 because it says tune-ups and repairs on 2 snow blowers, tractors. Truck will need additional work to maintain at current condition. If I remember correctly, it was just like what else is encumbered in that line item. Is that?
Yeah.
Anthony, I think you actually asked this
Yeah,
question.
I
Is
think
that
it-
not what you were
Yeah,
asking?
but it has to do with the fact that there's unexpended monies this late date, right? So-
Okay, so Mr. Colby, as of September of this year, that line item is budgeted for $3,000 and only $84.32 was expended.
Through October, that's the same, but I also know that the tractor's been over to MB Tractor for repairs, so,
So you're expecting to spend,
yes.
and then the next one was a line item right below it, which was maintenance equipment. Mr. Anthony, again, I believe you're the one that asked this question. It was just like, or you were asking like, what else with this line item? Is that right? Like, what else was involved besides what was put on here for the hand tools? Because it stays in the description: hand tools, pressure washer, leaf blowers, salt spreaders, vacuum cleaners, snow shovels, etc.
Okay, but in terms of what's expended for the rest, the remainder. what's-
Yeah. So this line item is budgeted for $2,500, and as of September this year, it was spent out $1,869.31. So you're wanting to know if they're expecting to.
Buy more power washers.
So then those two, I mean, they're close within it anyways. All right. For general government building, did that satisfy everyone's questions for it?
Well, I think the other thing that Richard and I discussed was a clarification on the tower.
That's police. That's the next one.
Okay, sorry.
Yep, no, you're good. This is just, I'm just asking about the general. I was pretty
Okay,
sure
I'm
those were
sorry.
the 2 line items. Is that, okay. All right. So then, yes, police. So there was a question about the police officer uniforms. And one of the main questions was the fact that this is a budgeted line item for $30,000. But as of September, only $9,518 has been spent out, but yet they're asking for $56,000 for the 2024. I do know that the police chief, as what he stated when he came to the joint meeting, is that he's wanting to have some things be more uniform with their uniforms. But I think they also have a couple members at the academy that's going to be spent
Did he
out.
provide, excuse me, did he provide an update
So-
to this? Because I think that's, we kind of speculated about that,
Yeah.
so. I was looking for something a little more
So
concrete.
he said, so I asked about the uniforms and, let's see, he goes, one of the reasons we have not spent all the 2013 monies is that we had officers refrain from purchasing any new or replacement uniforms and equipment this year with the anticipation of changing our uniforms over to a new approved standardized uniform. The other reason is that we are about to onboard 2 new hires, which will cost approximately $4,000 to $5,000 each for their initial uniform issuance. There was also a question of what exactly is involved in the uniform, like what comes out of the budget, like what is it, pants, shirts, what? He says uniforms is a generic term for all uniforms and equipment that the officers need to carry out their jobs. The list is exhaustive, but does not include firearms, rifles, ammunition, OC spray, tasers, radios, knives, and rifle cases. These monies are from separate line items. The uniform line item in question also includes funding for special circumstance uniforms and equipment such as police academy gear, ballistics vests, and carriers, and SOU uniforms. So that was the,
It sounds like it doesn't even clarify anything. I mean, that's not clear at all. All right, so if you have 2 that are being onboarded and you're saying it's going to cost about $4,000 with respect to that line item, per, so it's $8,000. We're saying that they anticipate for 2 new recruits that are coming in this year, right? Okay. So we're down to what, 22,000 of unexpended monies. So, I mean, so either impound it if you anticipate spending it, or just decrease the amount that they're asking for next year by that amount, or something like that. But I mean, it just seems that, the uniforms that you've outfitted, you just said doesn't cover ballistic vests, and it doesn't cover firearms and things like that. And we've only talked about outfitting 2 people that are coming on board this year. So I don't see where $70,000 worth of uniform expenses comes from.
So I believe the outfitting includes the ballistic vest, not the
You
firearms.
just said it came from a different line item.
No,
in
the
the
ballistic,
budget.
the vests that they wear, that's
Okay.
part of their uniform.
yeah,
Like-
it says right here, equipment.
Right.
ballistic vest
So
and
we don't
So-
we don't have any ballistic vests for anyone
It's
that are
not a
coming on?
one-size-fits-all. You've got to be measured for them.
And they do have an expiration date as
No,
well.
we don't just have,
Okay, well,
So if
what I'm
you-
saying is I just got 3 answers here, but that's not the police chief's answer.
no, the police chief's answer is that it's part of the uniform build out. So pants,
All right,
shirts.
2 people, he said $4,000.
We just wait 1 second, please.
Okay,
He said they all get a ballistic vest as part of their uniform, right? That doesn't include firearms, ammunition, anything like that.
because those come from different line items,
So
correct?
we're looking, the way I'm understanding that email and that response is that we're looking to onboard 2 new police officers. So we would need to outfit them. We don't have ballistic vests lying around just in case people come in. We have to outfit them. They have to be measured. It needs to fit them, right? So everyone currently on the force, they all have the necessary equipment they need to fulfill their job. So you're saying no one has a ballistic, there are officers that don't have a ballistic vest. That's not true. They all have vests as part of their uniform. So if we're looking to, and he also said in that email, and I didn't read the email, I'm just going off of what she read, that he's asked the other officers to hold off on spending, so we're not getting ununiform uniforms, right? So that we're not, he's asking them to hold off until next year, so when they do the full build out of consistent uniforms for everyone in the department, they're not going to expend that money. So yes, you're looking at not expending that whole line item this year. That money will then go back into the general fund, as long as that whole budget isn't overspent.
And the rest.
In the end, it's a bottom line budget.
Yeah.
And the rest of his email says, we also need the funds to onboard anticipated new hires in 2024 CBA uniform allowance obligation requirements and increased uniform costs. In the end, we plan on using all the remaining 2023 uniform line item funds along with the 2024 funds under tight fiscal control. Yes, Mr. Carves?
So the officers that are currently employed, when they redo their uniforms, we're just talking about the pants, shirts, hats to make them look the same. All of the high dollar ticket items like the ballistic vest and stuff, they already have, so they'll be able to continue on with that. Just, it's a standardization of a uniform appearance. Is that kind of
So the ballistic vest does come out of this line item. So
right?
ballistic
But
vest.
we have to replace the ballistic vest for every officer that has
Not
one
every-
already?
I don't want to speak out of turn with the police chief, but I don't think every officer is going to have to get a new one. I do know that those ballistic vests have an expiration date, so they might, yes, you might have to replace 2 this year, but you see what I'm saying? It
I
might
do.
not be all this year, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So let me ask this. He, as I understood his presentation, he has 2 people now in the pipeline
Yes,
that will be coming on board. That's point 1.
correct.
And point 2, from what you just read, he's anticipating additional hires over the course of the year. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
So did I understand that? So what he's basically budgeting for is not just the 2 people that are in the pipeline. He's budgeting for this anticipated hire later in the year
Yes.
at the what, $5,000 per person.
So it's 10 people that we're looking to hire,
5.
5. So it's 25,000, right?
And then we need
Not
to
50.
then we need to outfit 13 more.
I think this, I mean, I think this kind of cries out for, how about a breakdown on a spreadsheet or something where you're saying what it is that you're talking about. You just said that you're into the email where you just said that you're looking to have, the remainder of 2023 expended, but you just said that there are going to be 2 hires that you're outfitting, all right, at $4,000 a piece. That doesn't expend between now and December. That doesn't expend that line item. All right, so I mean, it just doesn't add up there. All right, and whatever's happening in next year, I'd like to probably see what that actually involves. Like if you're saying that this is what, we're saying is going to be an outfit for a police officer. So X number of police officers are going to be outfitted at such and such a cost. If there's a quote ballistic vest, replacement that's being contemplated, then you would say that new ballistic vests, expiration ballistic vests. I mean, just saying bromadically that, it involves all these things and it's all going to be spent.
So you'd like the police chief to list out for all the positions, this one's getting a full uniform replacement, this one's getting a full uniform replacement minus a ballistic
I
vest.
probably would have.
Is that what
Is
that what you're asking?
I probably would have thought that you would have expended 2023, what you had. I mean, to say that this is what we're going to, build out. And then I would have thought that 2024 would involve a request that would, encompass what wasn't covered in 2023.
I guess I don't know when these 2 people that are in the pipeline were hired, but it sounds to me like he anticipated to be able to buy the uniforms for these folks this calendar year, or this fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay. And because of a late hire or whatever, it's going to splash over to the next fiscal year. I mean, and so, yeah, it may balloon out next budget because he has to cover some expenses that that were anticipated to be covered in the current budget.
Well, that'd be an excellent explanation.
I'm sorry?
That would be an excellent explanation. That's,
And depending on how that falls, if that's the case, then we would probably encumber the funds because we would have some type of contract with whoever's providing the uniforms. They would list out in detail through an invoice, and we would potentially encumber those funds that would carry over to next year.
And I suspect he also probably expected for the 5 new people he wants to get, whenever that's going to happen, he's going to probably trying to anticipate some cost increase from the vendors who are going to be supplying the uniforms.
Yeah, that was part of his response.
And I caution the word new people because I think maybe the right word right now is replacement people, because I believe the department is short 5.
Yeah, these aren't new positions.
It's not
being
new
created, it's
positions.
backfilling, yes.
It's not new slots, they're vacant slots.
They're vacant, so it's refilling, whether it be retirement or people that have transferred or whatever. So it's not new positions, it's just new people going through the academy, getting trained, getting uniformed, working with an FTO and getting on the street.
Do we need 5 new, do we need to have a 100% filled out police department?
Would you do me a favor? Would you just email me exactly what
No, I'm
you're
just,
looking
it's a
for?
question, do we?
No,
do we
I
need-
want to make sure that your question's satisfied, and so if
I mean,
that's not.
you're talking about, oh, we're down 5. I mean, are we doing the mission with what we have? I mean, if we are, I mean, do we have an assistant police chief? I don't think we do.
No, we don't have an.
Okay, well, we did before, but we don't now.
Are we paying overtime though to
Do we have
offset
2,
the
do we have
shortage?
2, I don't know. We had 2 captains? Do we have 2 captains now?
No.
Okay, well, we have 1, we're doing that. Do we have a lieutenant now? I don't think we do. All right, okay, we don't have a lieutenant. And, so then, is the mission that we're asking the police department to do, are we overstaffing for it? I mean, that's sort of an open question, right? That's a budget question. If someone comes back and says that, no, everyone's, we're,
I don't
being
think we need to
worked to the bone or something like that, then, then we need to staff up. But if you're doing the mission, maybe you reevaluate what the mission is and not go with what the spreadsheet says.
I don't think we need to necessarily be staff heavy, meaning rank heavy. But when you call the police department and say, look, I don't want to complain, but this is a no-through trucking street, there's 2 autistic children, it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and they're going in excess of 50, and the dispatcher says, sorry, we got nobody on the road, we're short-staffed, and they go click, and you don't even know who you spoke to, that didn't go over very well. And that's a true situation from this summer. We don't have anyone on the road. What do you mean you don't have anyone on the road? What happens if we have a head-on fatal? Who are you going to send? And to hang up on a citizen calling and saying,
Who's hanging up?
the dispatcher hung up.
Is the dispatcher still working?
Well,
for
she
the
might
town?
have, in her defense, she might have had an emergency going down and couldn't engage in a conversation. But that was a real case scenario that happened this summer, and I was a witness to the phone call, and I was horrified. So how about just general patrolmen to run the neighborhoods, not just Route 125, but the neighborhoods for being present and looking for speeders and looking for people passing on double solid yellow lines and putting our kids and our elderly in jeopardy. Just general patrol.
They are out there doing general patrol. They are.
They are, but there's iron thin.
Right, they are. They're out there and they're doing the patrols, but they're thin. And
Very thin.
we're short 5 positions right now. And so that means everyone else has to pick up the slack and work more and get overtime. So that's why we're trying to hire 5 new people. And hopefully 2 new people will come in and will spread the wealth a little more. And then we can try to fill the rest of those positions and get to a fully staffed police department, because we are understaffed for our town. We have 18.
We don't have a school resource officer.
We don't have
We
an
hear from the
SRO.
school on a regular basis wanting to know when we're going to get hire an SRO. We're looking for.
Is that a recent, that's a recent phenomenon, isn't
As
it?
of October 1st.
So, and
Resign or request a transfer.
The officer moved out of the state, went back home. So resigned from the position.
Okay.
And it's trying to find officers to fill the spots, and it's the same thing all over the state right now. I'm sure you've all heard it. It's hard to fill positions.
There's communities offering $20,000 and $30,000 sign-on bonuses to hire officers.
Certified.
And they're not filling positions.
So are you wanting a breakdown of this line
Well,
item?
yeah, if the breakdown is assuming that you're hiring 5 new positions next year, and you just said that you're not anticipating, I mean, that there's a shortage across the
So then
board.
do me a favor. Email me exactly the questions.
I
and
think,
like
I
what
think,
they-
I think that's the question. I'd like to see a narrative about what that number actually means.
Okay.
I
well,
mean,
again-
that's
Okay,
what,
well,
that's.
again,
what you-
email me so I don't misconstrue anything.
For the record, I would like to see a narrative of what that number actually
You can be a
means.
smart aleck about it all you want, but I asked your questions that you wanted.
No, it's a
No,
finan- it's
hey,
a-
I have sit here and listened to you talk. We've all sit here and listened to you talk. I'm just going to state.
Oh, okay.
I asked the questions that were asked. This is the answers we got. It wasn't good enough. So I'm asking
No,
so we
I
can
want to
get
see a
the
break, I want to see,
questions.
I want to see
Is
a
that
line,
for you
I want to
just
see a
to
breakout
email
of that
me?
number.
Okay, then just email me
No,
that.
I want to
That
see
way
a
I can-
breakout of the
Okay,
number.
when you email it to me, then I will send it to the police chief so I can say, hey, this
Yeah,
is
I would
what
like
they're
to see
looking
a
for.
breakout of the number,
Cool,
budget, like
email it
you
to
have,
me.
you have a number.
The next thing that we have going on was that we asked about the tower, about it getting fixed. And the police chief went over in pretty big detail when we had that joint meeting about it. But Margot, what was your question about it?
So my question was, yes, we are looking at hiring a lift to go up and make repairs, and oftentimes a lift is safer than having someone climb a tower. But he said the tower was in needed repair, and I wanted to know what type of repair is it structurally it needs repair so that nobody can ever climb it again? Or is it repairs at the top and he doesn't want to send a man up? Is it ever going to be fixed so that we do not have to hire a lift every time it needs repair? That was my general concern or question was, if it's unsafe to send a man up, I don't want to send a man up. But is it something that can be fixed over time that's going to cost less than a man lift? Or is it something that he doesn't feel can safely be repaired and we're just, for safety reasons, always going to use a lift?
So the way that I understood it when he explained it to me is that there's currently stuff on the tower, like the antennas or whatnot, the equipment that's up there, that have to have so much repair and maintenance every year. Currently, the tower is deemed not safe by whoever looks at it. So to get whatever needs to be fixed this year, they have to get the lift. But I think the long-term plan is to fix that tower so that they can climb it and that we don't have to buy the special lift.
We're
Was
just
that,
renting the lift.
was that a response? I mean, that's what we heard, but is that the current response
I've not
to
gotten
that
an email
inquiry?
from-
So we don't have any new information on this subject?
Nope, I just went back and watched that, and then I wanted to
Okay.
double check here with you guys about what you wanted of that, but then I knew Mr. Colby was going to be here, so I was going to ask him if he had any additional information.
I know that the police chief intends on bringing up items that are associated with the communications towers and the department itself to CIP as part of setting money aside for future repairs, replacement, and expansion of the communications and the radio system. Currently, they lose radio coverage when they go into buildings. If they can speak to a dispatch
Yeah.
like outside of Walmart or outside of Shaw's, but as soon as they go into some of those buildings, they lose.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, you brought this up, that, I mean.
Yeah, on that kind of discussion, I'd like to be able to at least sit in on it, because I have personal experience with towers and antennas. Okay? Having said that, because I've been in this town since '66, and we've always had communications problems when, back in those days, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department did the communications. But we've always had dead spots. And I know for a fact what he's talking about when you can't go into a building, because I go with my cell phone on the back of on the meat counter in the Mullahs, and my cell phone doesn't work. It's a dead spot. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But we've always seemed to be talking about radio issues, dead spots, and what have you. And there's been conversations about this. And it seems like we're in a don't do loop. And so, I just need to understand why, because this is not a budget issue, okay? This is a CIP issue. This is a planning issue. And to say, yeah, well, we might be doing this and we might be doing that. Well, we've been fooling around with doing this and doing that for decades, from my perspective.
Yeah, and just to highlight that, my understanding of what I heard, the police chief saying, and if I'm incorrect, I would like to be corrected. But that you have a lift that costs X amount that periodically would need to be used every 2 years to be able to do whatever, to be able to either ascend the tower, to do whatever you need to do on the tower. All right. My question was, when did the tower, quote, become unsafe? What does it mean that it's unsafe? Is there, is it something that needs to be, I assume that it was intended to be scaled, all right, and can it be fixed? It's, this is a new safety complex. It's a new safety complex,
As a
right?
follow-up to that, is this the tower that's on the police station now, or is it one of the relays that are on 108, for example?
It's the one at the PD.
It's at the police station?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
And that tower is behind the safety complex and has been there. It wasn't built as part of the new safety complex for the
Yeah,
police.
exactly right. In fact, it's the second tower that they put up.
Well, didn't Hoyt take down the first one?
No, it was taken down. The first tower was a guide tower, and the first tower was taken down by a front-end loader.
Yeah,
loading snow.
Hoyt was plowing and caught the guide wire and took the whole thing down, and it wiped out 2 cruisers.
Ted?
Just a quick question. Has there been a study done as to what it would cost to correct or repair or replace the tower so it's safe? And is it financially smarter just to rent the lift every 2 years and do what has to be done and leave the tower alone?
Question. I don't think a study has been done.
Not that I know of.
Thank you.
More questions about that. The other 2 budgets that we had questions about were fire and emergency management. One of the things on the fire was the medical services. Just a description of that is new hire, medical physicals, and required annual medical physicals. Question was like, when do you do it? And just a thing about it. And so the fire chief stated that it is a NFPA 1582 standard, 7.3.1. All members shall receive a baseline medical evaluation after hiring and prior to performing firefighter emergency functions, and at least annually thereafter. 7.3.2. The baseline medical evaluations shall include the components of the annual occupational medical evaluation not performed as part of the candidate medical evaluation, provided the candidate medical evaluation was performed within the past 12 months. Then he states, our annual evaluations are scheduled for the last few months of the calendar year. That is why the money is still in the budget and not expended. Does anybody have any other questions about that line item?
Just one point, with respect to the fire budget. Since, I'm pretty comfortable with a lot what's associated with the fire department. I think it was presented in a very professional way, and it's, a lot of it makes sense intuitively. But I guess my question is, since the ambulance question is sort of the largest portion of it, My understanding is that Plasto's the only one, as of maybe today, that is opted out of the, whatever the local community ambulance contract. I mean, is that true? I mean, have all the other towns that, I mean, I'm assuming that they're looking at the same type of projected increases if they sign on with, let's say, Trinity and things like that going forward, but I believe we're the only ones who have opted out. Is that
We
correct?
were one of 6 towns in that no bid contract. And I believe the rest of them opted into a 1-year contract, is my understanding.
But they're still trying to, those towns are still trying to figure out what
they're-
exactly to do.
Right, and they're still trying to figure it out as well. So,
I don't believe that the other towns are in a position to do what we are in position to do as well.
Correct.
They either don't have the equipment or they don't have the staff. They're not in a position to be able to move forward.
Okay.
There are others that want to move forward, but they can't.
Well, and I also think, looking over the big picture, this has got nothing to do with you, Kate, but I think the foresight of not only our fire chief, but a few of the other people involved in the department that started working on this a while ago, not working on what they've come up with, but seeing the increases and saying, this has the potential to be catastrophic. And there are times that the contract isn't fulfilled because they don't have availability, and you get an email on a Friday night that says, sorry, we don't have a unit available. I think the overall big picture that started maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago is extraordinary. And not just the fire chief, he's a part of it, but the collective thought and planning that has gone into this for a relatively small town, I think, is extraordinary, and I'm very proud of all of them.
So the other questions we had on the fire department budget was the FD equipment maintenance. And he states that the current balance of this budget line is $9,315.65. He goes, we are waiting on equipment to come in for several projects that include equipment for the new ladder, hose invoices, and radio/paging equipment. This line will be spent by the end of the year. The last one was due to training and just any loose things about that. And he said that the current training balance for the budget line is $79.74. With still 2 months of the budget year, the increase is needed for this line to add some required training classes and to cover increases in the overall costs of the current training programs. Any other questions about the fire department's budget? Inspections was another one, and we had a question about the $850 telephone line item, but it's a telephone that is given to that inspector. And then the $900 for seminars, they do go to training. That's usually in the HR budget for that, but for whatever reason, it was put in the inspections. The inspector put it in his own budget this year. But it's not double dipping. There's not an extra in the human resources. It's just in his line item budget. And then the last one was emergency management, and it was the equipment purchases and just a justification for the amount, what else goes into it. And EMA stated that this line is used to purchase equipment that is needed to mitigate, prevent, prepare, respond, and recover from emergency disasters. The town does not currently have sufficient resources to meet the emergency management response needs of our citizens. Referencing significant historical data, we need to be prepared for numerous natural disasters that have already affected the town of Plastow. These include, but are not limited to, natural disaster events such as microbursts, heat-related events, ice storms, and snowstorms. This budget also includes purchasing items for our volunteer community emergency response team and grant matching funds for the Emergency Management Performance Grant, which provides state, local, tribal, and territorial emergency management agencies with the resources required for implementation of the National Preparedness System and works toward the national preparedness goals of a secure and resilient nation.
A resilient nation? Was that last
That's what he said.
Okay.
I'm just reading it.
All right.
I'll get more further information about the police budget, but that is it for tonight. So there's 2 budgets left that the Board of Selectmen have to look at, which is the cultural political one and then the water. When do you guys think that you'll have those for us?
I know we're probably reviewing the cultural one at our next meeting. And I'd have to defer to Greg on the water.
Try to have the water one ready for Monday night.
And we may need, so we got a determination at the last meeting that we are going to be purchasing the voting machines this year. Is that correct?
Look that way.
It does look that way. So we may need to reduce.
You could reduce that.
Okay. So there might be some changes related to elections.
Okay, so so with that, and then I know we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but where are you all at for the warrant article process?
I don't have an update on that at the moment. I would say I will keep you posted.
It's in the queue.
It's in the queue.
Okay, so safety. I was looking at my calendar. Budget committee members. I don't see a reason for us to meet really next week if they don't have anything for us. Do you guys think that you could have something for us by the 21st, or would the committee rather just wait and meet that first Tuesday in December on the 5th? Because this committee really can't do anything if we don't have anything from the Board of Selectmen, so we're kind of at their mercy with things.
What's the possibility of doing the warrants on the first week in December?
There's a good possibility of that. But we'd have to, there's also the CIP that we're waiting on as well. So,
Would you at least be able to have those other budgets finished?
yeah, I think we'll have a cultural resolved next Monday and then probably the elections knocked down as well, locked down. And then
Water.
if we have water by next week, then we should have it to you guys for then. If not, I don't know, what are you thinking on the water budget?
I really want to do it for Monday night.
Okay, so we'll have it Monday night.
So then do we want to meet on Tuesday, the 21st, and that's the day before Thanksgiving? Or we could meet on November 28th, or we could wait and meet till December 5th.
I'd be happy with the 28th
Okay.
because I have a school board budget committee on the 21st.
All right, so is everybody good with the 28th? At least we can knock those other budgets out, and then we'd just be left with warrants. All right, so we'll schedule the next budget committee meeting on November the 28th. I know, I can't speak. And I'm going, is there any?
6:30?
Yes, 6:30 here. Is there any other business that needs to be brought forth at this time?
Just a question.
Yeah.
Just because it was brought up, we've seen that, the tax rate that was just been set, and we saw our discussion about buying the tax rate down. I think the gist of that presentation was that the major driver of the enhanced tax bills that everyone's going to be getting is the school budget.
Oh, absolutely.
So in terms of people that are working on the school budget, I mean, we have some Plastow people here. So, is there any sensitivity that is in that process? Seeing as that people are probably looking at $1,000 increase in their tax bills, for the budget going forward. Because usually, they'll say that, well, we can't talk about the budget, because, it hasn't been set yet. But I think, I don't think people are going to be too happy with their tax bills. And we should probably get that in the pipeline right there. There's not much we can do about it in terms of buying down, the tax rate. I think we're committing, $300,000 of surplus to buying it down in a nominal way. So is there any sensitivity on the school budget committee to that effect?
We have not approved anything yet. We are approving to hold in reserve to review at the end of all of the budgets. I believe we're looking at 4 more budgets this week, and then we will look at more the 21st. I think we wrap it up then, and then the week of,
And think the December 14th, we're having a joint meeting, right?
Are we?
I think so.
I don't know. So then we'll have a conversation and we'll start to look at where we can maybe cut some things down. I've already made some comments about discrepancies on line items for schools. Why are some so much higher when they're smaller schools versus, and I think we had that conversation. And do we really need big ticket items this year? Watching some budget stuff and, we'll see what happens as we move forward. So we're not approving the budgets as we're seeing them. We're holding them to review and making the changes at the end of the process.
It's also being pushed very hard and understanding that what happens at the school level does trickle down to the towns. And that this is definitely a need year. This is not a want year. It is a need year only.
Just for anyone watching, I mean, I think the takeaway is that, I think what Plastow's
Get in
contribution
my bag,
is
but-
twice the municipal budget that Plastow has. I mean, it's in the realm of what, 20 million plus, versus our, $10, $11 million budget. So it's, just at least on my part, not speaking for the board or anything like that, I think, the double-digit budget increases are, not sustainable for anyone if they want to live in Plastow. So.
We have our next date, no other discussion, so I'm going to call this meeting adjourned at 8:21.
Thank you.